It's hearty, delicious comfort food.
The mishmash soup.
Knish, kishka, brisket.
Giant corned beef sandwiches with potato pancakes.
And you can't beat the soup. You cannot beat the matzo ball soup.
Kasha varnikas.
If I had to pick one, it's the Reuben sandwich.
Short ribs, chopped liver, stuffed cabbage.
The best gefilte fish I have ever had.
Rugelach, noodle kugel, and bagels.
Yeah, I'm gonna let you try this. This is really, really good.
Chicago was built on immigration. We're a Jewish family that immigrated to the U.S., and we were able to start a business from basically nothing.
It was the early 40s. It was tough for immigrants to get a job, so Charlie Raskin, my grandfather's brother, opened up a restaurant on Halsted and Van Buren, and my grandfather was in business with him for a number of years. And then my father opened up here in 1965. Been here ever since.
Kaufman's in Skokie was established in 1963. Maury Kaufman had a location in Albany Park prior to that. He was a survivor himself. When we got involved in the business back in the mid-'80s, most of the employees and many of the bakers were survivors of the camps. There were lots of people here that had numbers on their arms.
The bagel was started in about 1950 in Albany Park by the Wolf family.
The Golenzers and the Wolves, they lived in Hamburg at the beginning of the war. They were taken to Theresienstadt. So actually Ruth gave birth to Danny when she was there.
And Danny ended up being the owner of the bagel through the decades until his son passing last year.
Well, not to brag or anything, we have been the one really, really Jewish restaurant. A lot of the recipes were brought from Europe.
Those recipes are recipes that our great-great-grandparents had, whether they were in Poland or Austria or Ukraine, wherever they were.
There's that expectation when somebody walks in here, that cookie or that scoop of tuna salad is going to taste the same as it did when they were 5 years old. And we'll hear about it if it's not.
Anytime that you have a place that serves the dishes that you grew up with, and you sit here and you take a bite of soup, it just reminds you of who you had those meals with. And when it's Jewish food to Jewish people, it just brings back those memories.
It's exactly the same. And where can you go that everything's the same from basically 80 years ago? The comfort of coming here has not changed.
It's what I grew up with. It's what I remember. The food's delicious, but the food also brings a lot of memories back. The gentleman in the back, Huberto, he made between 800 and 1,000 matzo balls in 2 days for Passover, because you can't have Passover without matzo balls. And that was a tradition. You sat down at the table and here was these big, delicious matzo balls. Many Jewish people associate the food with their upbringing.
I grew up eating at Manny's. My parents ran a business right down the street. They were in the hosiery industry. They sold socks.
A lot of the merchants that were on Roosevelt Road, they call them the Shmati guys, were Holocaust survivors.
My father was liberated from Dachau, and he was the sole survivor of a nuclear family of 10. So I just think it evoked strong connections and strong memories. And so coming here and seeing Danny and seeing his father Kenny, and I knew Kenny's father, but it was comforting to me and it felt like family.
The people that worked in the area really came in here a lot. They were our best critics. If something wasn't right, they'd let me know, and I would have the 2 minutes to fix it. So it was interesting.
Jewish delis are gathering places for the community. Your kids come home from wherever they're living, now they're adults. Let us go and have a meal, and this is where we always sat, and this is what we always get. And the guy slicing the meat behind the counter has been there 40 years.
My daughter lives in San Francisco, and I have to tell you, they come here to Chicago to go to the bagel. And it's not just Jewish people, it's everybody that loves the food.
Well, to the politicians, it means that we have an unbelievable cross-section of the city of Chicago.
They want to interact with the people of Chicago, and this is the perfect place. I mean, it's a real family-owned business that has all walks of life.
When you walk in and you see the familiar faces, they know what I'm going to order. I love that.
A woman came up to the counter and said, "What do you have that's fat-free and sugar-free?" One of my deli counter guys very quickly responded, "Go up to the register and ask them for a napkin." She did not see the humor in that response. Back in the day, there was a lot of circus that went on behind the counter. Kibitzing and talking, and people knew each other.
Hello, Gino. How are you? He wanted pastrami on it. I don't like pastrami.
He's been here long time. 35 years.
We have not been back to Chicago. How many years are you working for us?
Only 37 years, yeah.
Oh, I was wrong. Only 37.
Somebody brought up to me about the Nazi march in Skokie that was going on many years ago.
I don't think there was an awareness of how many survivors there were in Skokie at the time. They came out in droves, and I think that's when people found out how strong the community was.
When my children went to Hebrew school, I told the teacher, I'm not worried about them writing and reading. I want them to know how we got here. What did we go through as a people? This restaurant is a very, very small part of that, but it does bring back a little history.
I had a customer who came in here and ordered 4 one-pound round rye breads. Her father was a survivor of the camps, and he swore to himself that if he survived, that there would always be bread to feed the family.
It's now been 80 years since the war, yet this is the same Jewish food, and it's going to be that way because that's who we are.
Downtown Chicago was full of delis once upon a time, before World War II. There were places like Ada's or the Ashkenaz. They disappeared. But there's a revival of Yiddish culture, and with that, in food.
We are seeing, a new generation start to come in, and I think that's very important.
It's obviously part of our history. It's also part of the history of the city of Chicago. This isn't just for the Jewish community.
Today we get a lot of tour buses of people who are coming to Chicago, some Jewish, some of them not Jewish, and for them to learn the history of the foods, how they were cooked. Judaism is way more than just the religion. It's the culture and family history. Everyone has their own interpretation of it and how you do it, and I think that's one of the greatest things is that you can be a super religious Jewish person or someone who just does it culturally through food and through memories and continuing on traditions that your family did.
Being a multi-generational business, to me that's unbelievable that the 4th generation is running this place now and being very successful and satisfying customers like I did, my father did, and my grandfather did. So just hope it continues forever.